have won the series against Oakland. They've had a knack for the comeback. This week at Toronto, where they swept, those were 3 comebacks, all late inning comebacks. And then the Yankees win the series against Oakland at the stadium, 2 out of 3. And both of their wins were also coming from behind. So they've shown great fight and a lot of heart. Are things perfect? Far from it. Definitely not. But they're finding ways to win. And they turn another triple play. The 3rd triple play of the season, which already ties a major league record. Their 2nd triple play in as many series. So if you remember in the last game against Toronto, they had a triple play. And then they get one in the 3rd game in the Oakland series. And that's the 3rd triple play that they've actually had in the last month. And I saw this stat, and it's pretty funny. I believe the Arizona Diamondbacks have won 2 games in the last month, and the Yankees have recorded 3 triple plays within that same span. Pretty ridiculous. So this was a series that was going to be tough going in, as Oakland had, I believe, one of, if not the best records on the road in baseball. They had yet to lose a road series. And if we're going to jump right into it, the first game was James Caprillion on the mound for Oakland. Now, Caprillion was a top Yankee prospect and was traded away in the Sonny Gray deal. And it took him till now, because of injuries, to finally really get going in the majors. I believe he debuted this year. I don't think we saw him previous to that. If so, it was minimal. And he pitched really well. He would get a win in this one against Jameson Taillon. And Taillon has been a lot better at Yankee Stadium. This was a good outing, but he didn't really give him length. They don't really trust him, nor should they. And I think a lot of the non-Cole starters have been getting pretty quick hooks. And in most cases, I agree with it. But in terms of Taillon, this was a good outing. It really was, especially for him. And we've seen what he can do, and those home road splits are pretty drastic. Taillon definitely gave the Yankees a chance to win this one. In this game, it would be Kyle Higashioka behind the plate. And look, it's gotten to the point where you really want Gary Sanchez at catcher as much as you can, which I can't believe I'm saying. Look, it makes sense because there was a day game after this one, and it was a long series, in Buffalo. So Higashioka catching made sense here. Totally understood it. And at this stage, Frazier was continued to be on the bench. That would eventually change. Yeah, other than that, pretty basic lineup to that point. Glaber was still at the 3-hole. That would change eventually also. So for this first game, right away, top of the first, it would be Matt Olson who would homer. And Olson is a hell of a player. He honestly, there's a lot of great candidates, so I don't know where he'll fall in line, but he has to be an AL MVP candidate. He's always had potential to be a really, really good player, and he's now seeing that. So Olson, he wouldn't only do it in the first game, but since we're recapping this one, homers, gives the Oakland A's a 1-0 lead. Then in the top of the 3rd, with 1 out, Elvis Andrus doubles, and then Mark Canha gets an RBI single. So Oakland takes a 2-0 lead, and they would take the lead in all 3 games. So in the bottom of the 3rd, though, the Yankees would tie it up. With 2 outs, Brett Gardner would walk, and then DJ LeMahieu, 2-run homer, opposite field, big homer, to tie the game up at 2. So DJ has slowly been improving. It's, not... I have mostly positive things to say about DJ, but I think there's another level that he can certainly hit. I mean, we've seen that, but good to see him because you want to see more pop from him. And now, he had homered at the Phillies. He homers here, so it ties it up at 2. Then in the 5th, they would pull Taillon. So with 2 outs and a runner on first, they would bring in Wandy Peralta to face Matt Olson, which makes sense. Again, I'm not a huge Wandy Peralta fan, and that would only continue when I get into the next inning. But Peralta comes in to face Olson, so who's a lefty and who had already homered off the Taillon, so I understand it. He gets Olson to fly out. Then at the bottom of the 5th, the Yankees take the lead. Rougned Odor hits a solo shot, gives the Yanks a 3-2 lead. This is off Caprillion. Top of the sixth rolls around, and they leave Peralta in. Now, keep in mind, the bullpen had been used a decent amount going into that game. Look, I wouldn't have had Peralta in there personally. I think that he should be one of the lower guys on that pecking order in that bullpen, but he's still in there, and it comes back to bite him. It does, and hopefully they learn from this lesson that Wandy Peralta should not be used as a high-leverage reliever. No way. He gets the first 2 outs, and then Chapman singles, Murphy singles, and then Tony Kemp, lefty-lefty, light-hitting, kind of speed guy, works a really good at-bat, and homers, hits a 3-run homer. So lefty-lefty battle gives Oakland a 5-3 lead, which they would not relinquish. Yankees offense in this one was basically a no-show. In the 6th, Judge gets a 1-out single, then there's a wild pitch, and then Glaber flies out. And Glaber just has not been very good lately. There's been a lack of pop. Simply put, he's batting around 250. He would eventually be dropped to 5th in the order, and I think maybe he should even be dropped down to 6th. I would maybe make that Gio-Glaber swap, but yeah, Glaber flies out here, and so they bring in Yusmeiro Petit and jump for Caprillion, and Stanton flies out. Then Lucas Licky would pitch a scoreless 7th. In the bottom of the 7th, Gio gets the leadoff single, and then Odor pops out, and Duhard lines out, and then Gary Sanchez pinches for Higashioka and pops out. And then Luis Cessa would go on to pitch a scoreless 8th and 9th. And then in the bottom of the 9th, you would get Glaber grounding out, again, just not getting it done. Stanton walks, and then because it's the Yankees, Gio Urshela grounds a double play to end the game. So a tough loss here. They lose 5-3, and Wandy Peralta comes back to bite, and just simply a lack of hitting. 4 hits. That's just not going to get it done, although they would get less hits later in the series and win. So you never know with that, but Yankees lose a tough one. Moving on to game 2, it would be a pitching matchup of Chris Bassett versus Domingo Germán. And the struggles for Germán continue. Germán did not pitch well at Philly his last outing and followed it up with a real clunker in this one. So his ERA in the last couple of starts moved up like a full run. And I feel like Germán, more than most Yankee starters, has had troubles at home. I'm not going to count Cole. I would assume his splits are pretty good on both home and away. But, like I said, Tyone is certainly better at home. Montgomery, I'm almost certain, is better at home. But Germán struggles Yankee Stadium and gives up a lot of home runs, another 2 home runs here. So the stadium has been a problem for him. And this was a bad outing. So whereas with Club Brown, I felt like, Domingo is definitely the number 2 starter, I kind of think Montgomery has actually probably surpassed him, if that matters. Top of the 1st, Oakland. So in each game, Oakland would score on the top of the 1st. This one, Tony Kemp, again, homers. This was a Yankee Stadium porch job homer, right field. And so Oakland takes that early 1-0 lead. And Gio, bottom of the 2nd, Stanton walks, Glaber singles, and then Gio grounds a double play him. And so that's Gio grounding a double play him back-to-back at bats dating back to the game before. But what's more important is that Gio actually he breaks his bat, and it looked like he got like a shard of wood in his eye. So he wasn't really running down to first because, he was in a lot of discomfort. He's fine, but definitely a weird play and wasn't really sure what was going on. But so Gio grounds out into the DP, and in the 4th, Matt Chapman homers, gives Oakland a 2-0 lead. It's a solo shot. But the Yankees would bounce back, and in the bottom of the 4th, Judge would single, Sanchez fly out, Stanton walk, Glaber pop out. So again, runner in scoring position pops out, and then Gio Urshela gets an RBI single, and that was a rare hit with runners in scoring position. At one point in this game, the Yankees were 1 for 12 until they finally got it done towards the end. So that would cut it to 2-1. But then top of the 5th, it would be 4 straight guys getting on. Andrews singles, Canna singles, Kemp walks, and then it is a 2-run single for Matt Olson, 4-1 Oakland, 1st and 3rd, no out in the top of the 5th. So Here it's looking like game over until Nestor Cortez comes in the game. Cortez, the unsung hero of this game. And this was a guy who was used a lot in 2019. He was actually on the Mariners in 2020. The Yankees brought him back. And Cortez, I remember in 2019, early on, he was very effective. And eventually, he was not. And so he's got a lot of funk to him. He's not the hardest thrower, but he has weird deliveries. He's deceptive. And, when he goes through the order one time, he can be effective. So Cortez, first and third, no out, gets out of it completely as Ramon Laureano would pinch hit for Mitch Moreland and strike out. Then Chapman strikes out, and then Murphy flies out. So keeps the game right in check. Then Clint Frazier gets lead a double in the fifth, only for Gardner to strike out, LeMahieu to ground out, and Judge to strike out. Judge has had a rough go lately, even though he does get a big hit later on. For the most part, Aaron Judge hasn't been great, but you can forgive him because, it's been mostly good this year. And Cortez pitches a scoreless 6. And then in the bottom of the 6th, the real rally kind of starts to get going, and it starts by Gary Sanchez hitting a home run. So the power continues, and that would cut the lead to 4-2. The runners in scoring position struggles continue as Stanton singles, then Gleyber grounds out, and it gets Stanton to second, but then Urshela and Odor strike out. So it stays at 4-2. Cortez pitches a scoreless 7th, and then in the bottom of the 7th, they would tie it up. Birch Smith comes in for Chris Bassett, and Clint Frazier gets another leadoff double. But this time they would get him in. But it took a while. Gardner pops out, so an unproductive at-bat for Gardner. Then LeMahieu grounds out. Then it's a big RBI single for Judge. Sanchez would walk. And then Yusmeiro Petit would come in for Smith. And Giancarlo Stanton gets a game-tying RBI single, 4-4. And then Gleyber grounds out. But the Yankees come back, tied up at 4. Top of the 8th, Chad Green comes on and very impressive, strikes out the side. Looks very good. Then at the bottom of the 8th, Jesus Luzardo, the lefty, would come on to face Gio Urshela, who promptly would hit a solo shot to dead center field, give the Yanks a 5-4 lead. So a really big home run for Gio. Then Chris Gittens pinch hits for Rugen Odor and walks. I'm going to say it now in case I don't remember later. Chris Gittens would be sent down at the end of the series, and that's too bad. I would have liked to have seen more of Gittens, and the reason for that is because Luke Voigt will be back, and hopefully his return this time will be better than it was previously, and hopefully all his injuries are behind him. So Gittens walks, and Tyler Wade would pinch run for him. Clint Frazier would then walk as well. Gardner gets a sac bunt. They take out Luzardo and have Sergio Romo face DJ LeMahieu, and LeMahieu would get a really big hit. As second and third, one out, he gets a 2-run single, gives the Yanks a 7-4 lead. Then a bit of bad base running by DJ as he just gets picked off. He just kind of got caught, not smart, by someone who normally is smart. So 7-4 going to the 9th, and it would get interesting. Chapman, it's been a bit of a roller coaster lately. Chapman does get a strikeout of Andrus, but then Mark Canha walks, and Jed Lowry would pinch it for Tony Kemp. And during this at-bat, Aaron Boone would be ejected. So just in general, the home plate umps have really been bad. It's been as bad as I can ever remember it. And Boone was fed up and gets ejected. Jed Lowry would fly out, and with 1 out to go, Matt Olson gets a single, an infield single, on a play where the ball goes off of LeMahieu's glove at first. Wade gets it at second, throws to Chapman, and he can't come up with it. It shouldn't have been an error. It's a ball that I think Chapman would have liked to have caught. And I think the Yankees pitchers have had trouble fielding. We've seen it on and off, but it keeps the game alive. And then Ramon Laureano gets an RBI single. So 7-5. The lead run is up. The tying run, Laureano's on base, and it's Chapman versus Chapman. Aroldis versus Matt. And Aroldis would strike out Chapman on a 103-mile-per-hour fastball. Pretty impressive stuff to end it. Pretty dramatic ending. And the Yankees did a very good comeback when you consider the fact they were down 4-1, first and third, no out. Very good job there. And keeping the series win hopes alive heading into the rubber match, which would be a battle of lefties, Sean Manaea and Jordan Montgomery. And Sean Manaea was very, very good. fantastic, actually. And Montgomery was really good as well. This was a great pitcher's duel. And the Yankees, let's just say the Yankees struck out a lot. Manaea had 11 strikeouts, and overall the Yankees would strike out 15 times in 8 innings. So not impressive at all in that sense. But in this one, and I guess I should have mentioned this the previous game, that Gary Sanchez would bat third. So Sanchez, and not only is he batting third, but he deserves it. Like, who would have ever thought that we would have reached this point where Sanchez, he's one of the guys you want up there right now. There's just no question. So Gary Sanchez is up to 3 in the order. And Gleyber moves down to 5. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, they maybe moved Gio to 5, Gleyber to 6, but that's not a huge deal. And it would be an all-righty lineup. So no Gardner, you get, no Odor, Gittins would play first, Judge is in center, that type of lineup. And Duhar on left, Frazier on right. So in the first, Oakland scores, and it's Matt Olson. Olson, solo shot, dead center field, 1-0 Oakland. And then Manaea just gets to work. But in the first, with 2 outs, Gary Sanchez gets a double to right center. And that's what I've been talking about. Gary Sanchez, when I know that maybe there's a hope and a prayer that Sanchez can get back to the old Gary, it's when I see stuff like that. That's what he used to do. Hitting just shots to right center, a double, line drive, but unfortunately Giancarlo Stanton would strike out looking. So they're still down 1-0. And then it would just be a whole lot of pitching, a whole lot of strikeouts on both sides. DJ LeMahieu would get the second of 3 hits of the game for the Yankees. Yeah, a double with 2 outs in the third, but then Aaron Judge strikes out. So it stays at 1-0. We're going to move all the way to the 6th. So now Montgomery he's faced 2 times through the order, and now it's a 3rd time through the order. And give the Yankees credit, they had Loaisiga up. So they knew that as well as Montgomery had pitched, trouble could be looming. And certainly so when he walked Canada to start the inning. I actually wouldn't have minded if they brought Loaisiga in to face Matt Chapman. They didn't. They let Montgomery stay in, and Chapman hit a deep fly ball to center that Judge caught, luckily. And then Matt Olson would single to make it first and second one out, and that would be it for Montgomery. They bring in Loaisiga, and Loaisiga is the win machine. Jonathan Loaisiga has 7 wins this year. I mean, that is pretty remarkable. I mean, there's a lot of luck that goes into that, of course, but it just shows how good he's been. And he would get 5 outs in this game. He has been such a weapon in that bullpen and is one of the most relied upon guys, and the stats are amazing, and he's been getting the ground ball. It looked like it could have been a double play as Ramon Laureano would hit into what looked like a 5-4-3 DP, but they would review it and say that he was safe at first. So they get the force out, and then Loaisiga gets Jed Larry to ground out. So gets out of that jam. Then in the bottom of the 6th, off of Sean Manaea, Clint Frazier draws a leadoff walk. So the one good thing about Clint is that he does draw walks. He does. It's been a rough year for him. He's been better lately at the plate, though. Definitely. His fielding, we'll get into that. But Clint at the plate, it's been better. Then LeMahieu strikes out looking. Then there's a balk. While Judge is up, there's a balk. So Frazier moves to second. And then Aaron Judge walks. And so it's first and second, 1 out. And stepping up to the plate would be Gary Sanchez. And at this point, Sanchez has already done so much. So if he doesn't come through here, you can't blame him. But he actually comes through, and again, he hits a double to right center field. That is good to see. 2 doubles to right center field in the same game, a huge spot, gives the Yankees the lead as Frazier and Judge score. Then it gets a little bit interesting as his base running here was not great. Sanchez would try to go to third, and you know what? With 1 out, you can live with it. Like, if it had been with no outs or 2 outs, then it would be a really bad thing, but Sanchez tries to go to third, and he was out dead to rights, but somehow he got in there. I still don't know how. He was safe. So Sanchez is on third with 1 out. They bring in Sergio Romo for Sean Manaea, and this is a big run to, give him a little insurance, and they don't get it. Giancarlo Stanton strikes out, and then Gleyber Torres grounds out. So it stays 2-1. Loaisiga in the 7th would run into a little bit of trouble. There'd be a 1-out walk to Sean Murphy. He would get to second on a ground out, but then Loaisiga strikes out Mitch Moreland, who was a pinch hitter, to end that 7th. And Romo pitched a clean bottom of the 7th. Then in the top of the 8th, here's where things get interesting completely. So first off, defensively, and Duhar had just been up. So they bring in Wade and so what happens is they realign. As Andujar's out of the game, they bring Wade into the game. Judge goes from center to right, Frazier goes from right to left, and Wade goes to center. What I'm a little confused about here is why couldn't Gardner come in the game for Frazier? I understand Frazier was going to be still due up at the bottom of the eighth, but they didn't bring Gardner into the ninth either. So it had nothing to do with that. So a little, to me, have Wade in left, Gardner in center, and Judge in right. They leave Frazier in this. That's the first thing. Then I like Lucas Luetge. Don't get me wrong. He is absolutely better than Wandy Peralta, but it was shocking to see Luetge come in the eighth. And at this point, I'm wondering, what does this mean? It means that because you have, in theory, Chapman in the ninth, which we found out he would pitch the ninth. So I wasn't sure if maybe I wasn't sure maybe if Chapman was unavailable. Chapman pitches the ninth, so it's not him, as we later find out. Zach Britton, they would say after the game, is sore. Now, he hasn't pitched since Thursday. He did not pitch this series. So I'm mildly concerned about that. They're downplaying it, but yeah, no Britton. And then no Chad Green, who he struck out the side the day before, but they said he's been pitching a lot lately, which he has. And I guess he's been getting warmed up in the bullpen and not coming in certain occasions. So long story short, everything seems to be all right. But Luetge coming in the eighth was definitely a bit nerve-wracking. It was like the biggest spot he's probably just about ever been in. But to his credit, he gets it done. Mark Canha flies out, and then Matt Chapman triples on a play where Clint Frazier could have made that play, could have easily made that play in left. So it's an adventure out there with Clint. There's no doubt. But Luetge doesn't let it affect him as he strikes out Matt Olson. He strikes out Matt Olson, who, like I said, has been great all series long, great this season. And then Ramon Laureano flies out. So Licky's able to escape that jam. And so Cam Bedrosian would come in for the bottom of the eighth, and the Yankees would do nothing. So we go to the top of the ninth. Chapman is on, and he did not have it at all. And there might have been like a fingernail issue as well, as he had to be looked at. But Jed Lowry would walk, and then Tony Kemp would walk on 4 pitches. So Lowry, it was a 5-pitch walk. Kemp, a 4-pitch walk. And then Sean Murphy, it was a 1-0 count. So at this point, he has thrown 9 balls out of 10 pitches. Like, it's looking like at this point a really bad situation, to the point where Wandy Peralta and Luis Cessa are warming up. What do you know? And I'm a little bit surprised Sean Murphy didn't take a strike. Murphy hits a 5 Gio, 4 LeMahieu, 3 Gittins, triple play to end the game. Amazing. Doesn't get any better than that. Like I said, their 3rd triple play of the season, 3rd in a month, 2nd, back-to-back series of triple plays. And Gio is such a good fielder. He gets to just about everything. The arm is strong and accurate. And LeMahieu makes a really nice turn at second as well. So great stuff. Yankees win the series against a really good Oakland team. And, hey, Tampa and Boston are losing a lot of games. Baseball is a long, long season. And I still have my worries with this Yankee ball club. But, things can change very quickly. The Yankees look like they were dead in the AL East. Completely dead. And I still don't know if they're going to win it. But all of a sudden, they are 3 back on the loss side of Tampa and 4 back on the loss side of Boston with with just about 15 games left against Boston, including one this coming weekend at Fenway. But before that, it's going to be a 3-game set home against the Royals. This is a series that, look, you kind of want to get a little greedy. And keep in mind that Kansas City just did well against Boston. They did. So I'm never going to complain a whole lot winning 2 out of 3, but that's, of course, at bare minimum. You have to take 2 out of 3, especially when you consider Garrett Cole's pitching one of those games. He'll be pitching the first game, then it'll be Michael King, then it'll be Jameson Tyone. So I could see that Thursday game. We've seen the Yankees not be so good in those last game of series, getaway days, that type of thing. Maybe it's a weaker lineup. But again, 2 out of 3 or a sweep is kind of what you're looking for here at home against the Royals, which will then lead into a really big series at the Red Sox at Fenway, and the Red Sox will be coming off a big series against the Rays. So a lot going on in the AL East, and let the good times roll for the Yankees. And again, I can't believe it. 3 triple plays on the season.